Hey Branson, how you doing? Can't hear you.
Okay, how
There
about
you
now?
are.
I had a podcast last night, and I was set up for the old system. I had switched over.
Okay, cool. Hey Jack, how you doing? Everyone have a good weekend.
Got my daughter moved out of my house again and into an apartment.
Nearby?
Congratulations, sir. I know that feeling.
Is it
As
Yeah, fortunately, she was only with us for a month, but uh, I really enjoy being an empty nester.
how many kids do you have?
Two, um, one grandchild. So, in addition to my daughter is separating from her husband,
I see.
or has separated from her husband. So I had her and then about half of each week would have the granddaughter as well.
Okay. Well, granddaughters I can handle. They're fun.
Well, this one just turned 6, and I I don't know if I can say we can handle her because it takes two of us, and if we have her for the weekend, we usually take her home early on Sunday so we can recover in time to go to work on Monday.
Wow.
that's the
Well,
marvels of grandchildren. You can always take them back to their parents.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you spoil them.
yeah. That's
We
what my mother always said. I
yeah,
get to spoil them, and then when I'm tired of them, I just give them back to you.
yeah, that's right.
Well, I have a trick. I love just taking them to Baskin Robbins, the candy shop right before I take them home. So when they get back to the parents, however they ran with me that weekend, oh boy, that Sunday night with them is going to be.
Payback. Yeah, I always said Pixie Sticks and Red Bull.
Oh my God, you guys are evil. Totally evil. Red Bull?
Yes,
So
or two nice cups of Sunny Delight. Get some going.
Mountain Dew. Yeah, Mountain Dew. Yeah.
Mountain Dew, the red color. Oh,
you guys want to hear my Mountain Dew story? So I was doing some work with the Minges family in I guess their big plant is in Aden or Grifton or somewhere.
yep.
And so one of them told me this story. Their uncle actually invented Mountain Dew. And he tried to get whichever Minges at that point was in charge to let him put the Mountain Dew on the Pepsi trucks so that they could be delivered. And that guy threw an absolute fit, said, I am not putting that PISS on my truck. That's terrible. No way in hell. So then one of the sons, the one who's now running Minges, uh, actually kept loading it without telling the father. And now Mountain Dew is even bigger than Pepsi as a brand. So that was a pretty good story. I don't know if he made gazillions or not, but pretty interesting. So, hey, everybody, thanks for coming today. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Uh, I ended up getting my second booster, and it kind of wiped me out yesterday. I got it on Saturday, and I was definitely a little under the weather yesterday, but that's okay. I'm back strong now. So I've heard that this particular one causes that, and for both my wife and I, that was the truth. We both got a little bit of a fever or whatever. Nothing serious, but definitely noticed it. Okay, so today we're going to talk about EQ for entrepreneurs. This is for those of you taking the class before, generally is one of the favorite segments. This woman who teaches this is a managing director of Techstars for Los Angeles. She's really good, and I think all of you will find value, and at least I sure hope so. So let's see here, share screen. There we go. There we go. And let's give it a go.
What we're talking about today is emotional intelligence, or EQ, and the role it plays in your success as a founder. Research suggests that EQ may be twice or even 4 times as important as intelligence in your success. The definition of EQ is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of everyone around you. As a leader, you want to manage what you say and what you do. You've got to know what you're feeling, because your thoughts are driving your feelings and your actions. The majority of people don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and don't know how their words and their behavior affect other people. So the fact is, there's a lot happening in our brains that we don't know. Fear can be a great driver. The most powerful leaders are those who acknowledge and embrace their fear and then turn it into an asset.
Okay. I want to highlight the point that many people, including myself, aren't always aware of what's going on internally with what's happening in our lives. And when you are a leader, when you are working with other people who depend on you, the more awareness you can have about that, really, the more effective you'll be. And that's kind of the basis for this this whole thing here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anna. I'm the managing director of Techstars LA, and I'm also an executive coach. And what we're talking about today is emotional intelligence, or EQ, and the role it plays in your success as a founder. EQ, which is sometimes referred to as emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, I'm going to use those two interchangeably, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of everyone around you. So research suggests that EQ may be twice or even 4 times as important as intelligence, or IQ, as hard skills in your success. In the startup community, and in particular in the tech world, we place like an inordinate value on hard skills and kind of what you know and where you went to school and what your role is. But the fact is that soft skills are probably harder to train and even more important in your overall success than the hard skills. But they're difficult to pin down and identify and find ways to develop. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is actually identifying what those soft skills are and then how you can build them. I actually do believe that emotional intelligence is something that you can practice. I also believe that we're never actually done practicing, so we're constantly, working on it. Let's look at some different tools. What we're going to cover in this is self-awareness, first of all, which is the cornerstone of everything. You can't work on it until you're aware of it. How to be present, how to use presence to pay attention to what's happening around you, how to recognize and manage fear, what flexible thinking is and how to use it as a tool to grow your company. Then we're going to take these skills and we're going to apply them where all the problems show up, which is other people. Because, we don't have problems. We only have problems in relation to other people. So we're going to look at feedback, how to get it, how to give it, and why this is important, and then spend a little time talking about coaching and how to coach yourself and how to coach your team around you to help them grow. I believe that personal growth drives company growth. So the more you can develop these skills and the more you can be a great coach for your team, the more effective and productive you're all going to be. So what exactly is EQ? The definition of EQ is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, and recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. In practical terms, this means being aware that emotions drive behavior and impact people both positively and negatively. And learning how to manage them, both ourselves and others, is key, especially when we're under pressure, as we often are. So we can look at EQ in 4 quadrants. And this was developed by Daniel Goleman and based on a lot of psychology research at the university level. So first we've got self-awareness, which is really where it all begins. This is the ability to understand your own strengths and weaknesses, to understand what your core values are. What do you care about? What really drives you? You'd be amazed how few people actually know what it is that motivates them. What's your why? And then what are the things that set you off? What are your triggers that get you into the emotional part of your brain so that you can't think as clearly? Being self-aware means understanding all of this. Then we move to self-management, which includes being able to stay calm and positive in a crisis and being able to recognize and detach from feelings rather than letting them drive your behavior. Good self-management allows us to focus under pressure and be adaptable, to be in a state of continuous improvement and to set high goals and reach for them. So now that we've got ourselves kind of all under control, we move to social awareness, which starts with empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of someone else. This applies both with your team, but also with your customers. The next level of social awareness is being able to read a room. So when you walk in, you can understand the dynamics and you can see how people are relating to each other, which is going to help you communicate better. It doesn't take a huge leap to understand how this is going to help you sell more and also help you raise money. Then in the last quadrant, we have the ninja level EQ skills, the social skills, which includes everything from being able to give and accept feedback well, to being able to build and inspire trust, to use your understanding of someone else's perspective to influence them, and then the ability to be an inspiring leader, which is something that we all want. Many investors, myself included, ask questions around EQ before making an investment. So the core thing I look at when I'm looking at a CEO, is this someone that I would work for? Is this someone that I believe that I could follow as a leader? And that really goes directly to EQ. What I'm saying is this a person with high EQ who I believe has the ability to be an inspirational leader? So that's pretty deep, because you may walk into a pitch meeting and think, wow, what they care about is how good is my idea and how good's my plan and how good my slides are, when the person sitting across the table from you is really looking at, is this someone I could follow? So making an investment in EQ and really thinking about it is going to just make you, such a more impactful leader and make those meetings go so much better. I think EQ is it's a little bit like good taste. Everyone thinks they have it. Everyone thinks they have good taste. Everyone thinks they have high EQ, but that can't really possibly be true, right? So in practical terms, the truth is, for good or bad, that all of this stuff is related. There is no such thing as a decision that is devoid of feeling. As a leader, you want to manage what you say and what you do. You've got to know what you're feeling, because your thoughts are driving your feelings and your actions. Your feelings are determining your thoughts and what you do. And believe it or not, your actions, what you do, actually influences your thoughts and your feelings. So the idea that you could kind of take emotion out of the equation, as some of us would like to do, and just be completely data-driven, it's just absolutely not realistic. Ignoring your feelings in all of this is just never going to work. So we have to understand how the 3 things work together. What we're really trying to do when we build EQ is get our 2 brains to work together. We have our feeling brain, which is wired unconsciously to keep us safe. And a lot of the actions we take are driven by impulses that are just really deep and that we may not even fully understand. So as a leader, you want to become fluent in EQ so you can use all these tools to build better teams, to build better companies, to have a greater impact on your customers and everyone around you. And there's a huge additional bonus from understanding and investing in EQ, which is that your friends and family and probably even your dog are going to like you better.
I'm all in favor of having my dog like me better, personally. She likes me pretty much already, as long as I keep feeding her.
So let's dive right into self-awareness. How many people think that they have high self-awareness? I'm expecting everyone's hands to go on. Come on. Okay. According to Harvard Business Review, 95% of us report having high self-awareness, but actually only 10 to 15% do. So that means the majority of people don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and don't know, how their words and their behavior affect other people. Like, wow, that feels like a really big problem to me. So if you're the majority of people who think you're self-aware but actually aren't, like, that's a massive problem for not only you, but for your company, because especially at the beginning, you are your company. So let's look at, a really, really extreme example of someone who's not self-aware. And I just like to stop and note that, like, I think a lot of us have become aware that we're not self-aware recently because there's a lot of people that have taken these unconscious bias tests online. We all think, oh, I don't have unconscious bias. Like, I'm completely not biased against anyone. And then we take the unconscious bias test and it shows that we are. So the fact is there's a lot happening in our brains that we don't know. But let's look at an extreme example here. So, someone who's not self-aware cannot accept feedback, don't know what they're good at, don't know what they're bad at, don't know what triggers them, so aren't able to identify when they get into an emotionally triggered state. They might actually have an inflated sense of their own performance, tend to take credit for, does anyone know anyone like this? Tend to take credit for other people's achievements and blame others when things don't work out. And finally, they may even hurt other people without realizing it. I'm sure we've all worked for someone who isn't self-aware. And it's an incredibly painful thing especially when you're in a reporting position with someone who lacks self-awareness. It's just almost unbearable. So now let's look at someone who has high self-awareness. Someone with high self-awareness understands what they're feeling and why. They know their own strengths and weaknesses. They know what drives them and what they care about and what their values are, which, by the way, also informs the company's values and helps them bring in people that share those values. Because they know who they are, they can present themselves with confidence, but also humility, and then make better decisions quickly and even in uncertain situations. So early on in life, this might not matter so much. We've all seen people who lack self-awareness who are high achievers in school. So when you're in school, the rules are clear, the guardrails are clear. You know what you need to do to get an A in this class or that class. The teachers aren't really looking for self-awareness. They're looking for, material that you've handed in on a test. It's very transactional. When you get out into the real world, right, and in particular when we're trying to build companies, and how you affect other people, your ability to inspire people to come follow you and work for you, your ability to convince people to buy your product, all of those skills that relate to EQ become so much more important. And that's when the difference between people that have high self-awareness and those that don't really, really starts to ramp up. So we're going to go over a quick way to get started building your own self-awareness. So the first step is getting a baseline, what do you know about yourself? So this is a pretty easy exercise. You're going to write down four lists of 5 things each. When asked to describe ourselves, we normally focus on the external stuff, kind of back to the hard skills. So we talk, who are you as a person? You might think, oh, well, I went to this school and, this is my job title and this is where I grew up and these are the things I know about. We tend to talk about things that are external, but what I'm talking about is our inner self, not our external self, which is a lot harder sometimes for us to identify. So you're going to write down your strengths, improvement areas, your core values, and the things that trigger you. Once you've got your list, you don't want to necessarily post it on your social media, but you might want to share it with someone that knows you really well and get their reaction. What is on your list that they didn't expect, and what is missing from your list that they think should be there? And that can be really informative. So I'd like to just spend a minute on personality assessments, because sometimes when people think self-awareness, they think, oh, I should go take the Myers-Briggs, or I should take the DISC, or the Enneagram, or the Strengths Finder. I've taken all of these, by the way. So I think they're really useful, but they're kind of just one piece. An assessment on its own doesn't create self-awareness. It's just a tool in kind of pointing out blind spots, things you don't know about yourself, or just giving you just kind of another perspective or a set of vocabulary to talk about, who you are. So to illustrate this, I will throw up some of my results and talk about how these sort of inform or relate to my own self-awareness and self-assessment. So Think about these things as preferences or tendencies rather than fixed qualities. And that's really, really helpful because then it sort of gets you out of this idea of this is how I am to this is what I prefer, right? This is what I prefer. And then I can kind of correct for that. So I prefer extroversion, right? Which means maybe sometimes I actually need to build my inner introvert up. I am very high level, strategic. That's what strategic, intuitive is, so I like to stay on the top and think in frameworks, right? So sometimes I can need to spend a little more time like working on the details and building up from the bottom. Judging, dominance, input, activator. I have a super strong preference for making decisions. I like to be in charge, right? That also means on the flip side, I have trouble with followership. In any event, these can be very useful. They are one piece of the puzzle, but they're kind of not the beginning and the end. So here's what it looked like when I did this full exercise on kind of strengths and growth and values and triggers. It's a little scary for me to put this up here because I'm like, wow, I'm telling you an awful lot about myself. But, self-awareness and opening that door is a little scary. It's like, what if I discover I'm not perfect, right? So guess what? You're not. None of us are. But the more you get to know yourself, there's real power here. There's real learning and growth. And the better you're going to be in every area of your life. So we can think about all this information about yourself in kind of 4 different boxes. So the first one is your open self, the things that are known to you that are known to others. And then you have the hidden self, which is you know it about you, but maybe other people don't know, right? So with a hidden self, what you want to actually try to do is make that box as small as possible. The more you reveal and share about yourself, the better your communication and your relationships are going to be, and the more you can learn. So there's a lot, it's scary to divulge things that maybe feel private to you, just about how you are and what you care about, but the more you do that, the better your connections are going to get. Okay, so let's talk about the unknown for a minute. I don't really get this. I'm like, how can there be something about me that I don't know and no one else knows? It's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest, like, does it really, no one hears it, does it exist? I don't know. But the one to really focus on, though, is the blind spots. So the blind spots is stuff about you that's obvious to everyone else that you don't know, right? And this is the really scary one. So the more you can open the lid to that box and look in it and get the things that are over there into the open self and out into the open and expand that green box, the better everything is going to be for you. And the more you're going to be able to connect with people in an authentic way. So now we're going to talk about presence, which is really the cornerstone of self-management. So there's physically being in the room, like we're all here, but we have various degrees of sort of actual focus and mental presence that we're bringing. So mindful presence is being aware and attuned to where you are and what's happening with your feelings and the feelings of everyone around you. So when we think about mindfulness, everyone thinks meditation. So meditation is amazing. And I highly recommend that everyone do it. But the fact is, meditation is not the only tool that you have in your toolbox to get present. Let's just do a quick exercise. It's called feet on the floor. Just notice that both of your feet are fully connecting through your shoes to the floor. If you're sitting in a chair, feel where the chair is coming into contact with your body. Just close your eyes for a minute and listen to what you hear in the background. Imagine that there's a string that's pulling straight from the top of your head all the way through to the ceiling above you. And as you do that, you'll notice that you'll sit up a little bit straighter and that you'll open up your chest a little bit so you're able to breathe a little bit more. And then just open your eyes and really look at everything that's around you. What color are the walls? Who are you sitting next to? How are you feeling right now? What's going on? Take a deep breath, and then you're back in the room. So I don't know about you, but I just did that myself, and I feel different now. and I feel like now I'm going to talk slower and I'd be able to make more eye contact with you. And it took 30 seconds. So if you do that before you start a meeting, especially if it's a meeting that's kind of got a lot of tension and charge, like you're just going to have a much better meeting. There's also a great way to do this with a group. It's called red, yellow, green. And it's a really great way to start a team meeting. You just go around the room and everyone checks in whether they're feeling red, yellow, or green. So green means I'm in the flow. I'm calm, I'm rested, there's nothing bothering me. I'm fully ready to be present and be creative. It's great if everyone's in green. It's usually not the case. Yellow means there might be some anxiety fluttering around the edges. Something's a little off, not quite right. Either I'm distracted about something that's happening at home or like I'm bothered by something at work. And so, I might not be 100% here, but I'm 75% here. And then there's red. So if someone checks in red, it means there is something that is really upsetting me and I am in a full emotional high alert state right now, right? It might be a really big problem at home. It might be something at work. And by the way, you don't have to say, if you're in the red, you don't have to tell people why you're in the red. It might be something that you don't feel comfortable sharing, which is completely fine. But it is really important that your team knows that you're red. Because if you're red, you got to go deal with that. You can't do whatever this meeting is right now. It's just not going to go well. So if you do red, yellow, green, and one of your teammates checks in red, ask them what they need right now. Ask them if they need to leave, ask them if they need to have a conversation about it. So take care of your people first. If you have someone in red, or if you're the one in red, deal with that, and whatever it was that you were going to discuss in the meeting can wait. So there's a bunch of benefits you're going to get if you're fully present. The first one is really simple, just awareness. You're going to notice more of what's happening in the room, including people's body language, and you're going to be able to hear more of what's being said. So you're just going to pick up more of what's going on. That goes along with higher level listening. So you're going to be able to deeply listen and have empathy for the people around you if you're present, which you cannot do if you're distracted or you're checking your phone or you're kind of in and out of the room, right? And it means you're going to get the content. We have so much trouble with communication. It's amazing how often you'll leave a meeting and one person heard one thing and the other person heard something else. And if you're fully present, you reduce the chances of that happening. The third thing is your creative brain is going to be fired up. So you're going to be able to actually engage with whatever is the problem or the thing you're discussing. And by the way, if there's no problem or meaty topic of discussion, and it's just a meeting to report on stuff, you shouldn't be having the meeting. A good meeting is a meeting where there's some creative problem solving that needs to happen. Finally, you're going to have a positive impact on the people around you. Do you know those people that when you meet them and they shake your hand, they make eye contact, and they make you feel like you are the most important person in the world, and you have that jolt of energy that comes into you, those incredibly special people? If you practice presence, you will become one of those people, and you will have that impact on everyone around you, and there is just no greater gift than being that person for someone else. One of the biggest mistakes we make in life is living in the future, so worrying about things that haven't happened yet. So in the startup world, we worry about whether customers are going to like our product, or if we're going to run out of money in 6 months, or what if our competitor gets there first, or some other thing that we have no control of and isn't actually on the table today. The other thing we like to do is live in the past. So, having regret that we didn't make a different move yesterday, or resentment against someone else who didn't do something that they were supposed to do for us that has now created a problem, none of which is on the table today. So the team you have in the room with you today, the product you have today, the angel investor who just committed to being the first person to write you a check to get your product out the door, those are the things that are on the table today. And being present, will help you engage with today's problems using the best faculties you have today. Being present so you can bring your whole self into the room to lead is just going to be key to handling whatever comes your way.
Okay, this is the last one we're going to look at today.
Let's talk about fear, because fear is a reality. When you're an entrepreneur, fear is everywhere. I don't believe a great company can be built on fear, but I do believe that a great company, in fact, most great companies, maybe every great company, is built by people that felt fear and worked through it. So what do we feel fear about? So Harvard Business Review actually did a study where they identified 7 specific and repeated buckets of fear that are felt by entrepreneurs. Okay, so the basic one is financial insecurity. It's really risky doing a startup, right? You're not building your 401k. The second one is running out of money, right? The most common fear of entrepreneurs, we're not gonna outlast our cash on hand. We're not gonna be able to make it. We've got 7 weeks, we're running towards a wall. The third one is imposter syndrome. It's the idea that I've tricked people into giving me money. They think I'm someone that I'm not, and I actually can't do it. And I'm gonna get found out. The next one is that the idea is no good. I've convinced people that this really great idea, is gonna change the world, and I'm not sure I 100% believe it right now. And then there's the shame or embarrassment factor. What is it gonna be like when I have to, tell everyone the company blew up and that I failed? I can't even stomach that feeling of imagining what that's gonna be like. Then there's the team. I didn't hire the right people. They're not going to be able to do it. I don't have the right people around me to execute. And finally, the opportunity cost, that big corporate job that you didn't take where you would have been building your 401k, and I'm never going to get it back, and I got myself off the path, and see, now I'm spinning. Like, I am getting upset just talking about this stuff because I have been there, and I was that founder, and I had all of this. It's real and it's no fun. But here's the thing: fear is not all bad. Right? I don't want to say that all fear is bad. Fear can be a great driver, right? If you're saying, I got to work hard, I need to figure out my sales channels before I run out of money, or you're going, I got to hit my goal this week because that's what I said I was going to do, that can be really, really motivating. It can drive progress and learning. But here's the thing. It's incredibly damaging when fear becomes physical. When you experience fear as a physical sensation, it stops you from being able to be effective. You're tense. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing increases, your blood vessels constrict, right? Your mental focus, becomes insanely sharp. So this is the classic fight or flight response, and that is driven by your amygdala. Your brain is going, what do I need to do to stay safe? So how do you think that is going to affect your ability to make good decisions? So the fact is, you cannot build a great team or a company or even have a good day when you're feeling like that. So when you become aware that you're in that feeling, you're having those physical fear sensations, just stop. Just slow everything down. Don't make any decisions. You got to address that. Back to sort of the idea of being in the red, right? If you've got that level of fear, you're in the red. Go back to your presence tools. Go for a walk. Get outside. Do something physical. You can talk to your team. I personally find that when I say how I'm feeling, it cuts it in half, at least, if not more, right? It's a little bit it's not that the fear isn't real. The fear is real and it's rational, but it also reminds me a little bit of the monster under the bed, and when mom and dad comes in and looks under the bed and the monster's not there, the kid feels better, right? So it's a little bit like that. When you share it, it kind of, fear hates the light of day, so if you're feeling that way, you share it with someone else, it's gonna help you lessen it. If there's no one that you feel like you can really talk to about it, which sometimes happens to CEOs because you don't want to say to your team that you feel afraid because you feel like you need to build confidence. You can always also, by the way, I would encourage you to say it to them anyway, because you're going to be, they're not going to be freaked out. Your team's going to be glad that you shared with them. So if you are a CEO and you are worried about showing your fear and vulnerability to your team, think about it. If you decide to do it, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. But you can also write it down. Sometimes just writing things down sucks the power out of them. And, coach yourself. Just ask yourself a simple question. What's the one thing that matters right now? And that can sort of help you get back on track. The point is not to stop feeling fear or to imagine that you're ever going to get to a point that you're not going to feel it, because you will not. By starting a company or deciding you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've put yourself in a place where you're going to feel more fear probably than even the average person. The point is to recognize when it shifts from working for you to working against you, and then to manage it. So I love to say, feel the fear and do it anyway. The most powerful leaders are those who acknowledge and embrace their fear and then turn it into an asset.
Okay. Um, I don't know about any of you, but I was surprised at, or not surprised, I thought it was useful, the red, green, yellow kind of discussion. Um, I think we all have dealt with drama, both our drama and other people's drama in our careers, particularly from the corporate world. And I think she does a really good job of pointing out awareness of what state you are in and what state the person you might be talking to is in. It can really make a difference in the choices you make to deal with it. So I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts on that particular part, or any other part of it as well. Con?
No, I love that. And I wished I had known this and more corporate companies focused in on it, because it would have made my corporate job a lot easier. But I appreciate the fact that you bring this in, and I look forward to this portion of the class, because it gives me a chance to pause and really take a step back and evaluate things that are out of my business model. I'm not focused on the production, the sales, the deliveries, all that. I can stop and really take notice of where I am and how I'm feeling, and maybe how the other person is feeling. So that's important, and I do appreciate that.
Oh, good. Jack, what do you think? Can't hear you, Jack. Your microphone's off. That makes me feel upset, Jack.
Yeah, I kept running things. It kept hitting touch points with me, because right now we're going through a lot of staff shortages and new leadership, most of which is not in place yet. But we're talking about, improving communications and everything. And I'm hopeful that we're going to be coming out of our individual silos. And I'm kind of imagining how that's going to work out and how this would help.
Good, good. Dawn, what do you think? Your microphone's off.
I remembered before, the one thing I really, really like is the red, the green, the light, making sure your people are okay when they come to work.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important to support your people too, because the better you support them, the better they're going to be for you. So I really like that aspect. That stood out to me before, and it stood out to me again this time.
Well, what I appreciate that. What I found interesting about it is, if someone is in red and you're not aware of it, they literally can't hear what you're saying in some cases, right? And that's just not something I had a high awareness of. I thought they were just being jerks or whatever. But when you kind of think about it this way, I don't think it makes you more lenient. It's just more aware. And I think that to understand where people are at, it makes it much easier to communicate with them, in my opinion. Allison, what do you think? All right. Well, Allison is finishing up her production, I think. How about you, Ruth?
Yeah, so I really appreciate the red, yellow, green, and I think it's really much more important when we are not face to face and we have virtual teams. Now I know in our most of our jobs now it's probably not the case, but back in the corporate world it was. And one quick story about that: I used to have this woman who worked for me, and she was a single mom with teenage boys who were giving her a run for the money, and we would butt heads all the time when I would ask her to do something that was different than what she thought we were doing. And all of a sudden, I realized that she was fighting with her boys as she was trying to get them out the door going to school. And when I realized that and took into account that she was bringing home to work with her and gave her some grace, that woman turned around entirely. She was a star performer. I was able to promote her, but she was a lesson learned for me that you never know what people bring into the workplace.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. That's a great story. Tammy or Brooke, either one of you guys want to comment on this?
So I got a book. I think that's the name of the book. Back when I worked in corporate world, and read all this and tried so hard to apply it at the law firm, with little to no success. With the lawyers who were not interested in this kind of touchy feely is what they said. But I was so impressed with the book and this idea and this notion of how to, this is what really makes businesses successful is for people in the way that you treat your people and not, not just the thing that the widget or the service that you're providing. It's the people and knowing them and being able to detect some of their issues and being aware and being vulnerable with them is also so much smarter.
Yeah. Well, I think the word is effective, right? If you're more effective, it isn't necessarily smart or dumb. I think it's a matter of being effective and able to to get things done in a way that preserves the relationships and enhances the relationships. And we're going to get into some more of this tomorrow, but I just really like it. I think it's really really terrific. And so we'll finish up this section tomorrow. But if you do get a chance, this whole idea of EQ. I have a friend who it's kind of a wild story, but he actually passed away a year ago, totally unrelated to this issue. But he ended up making a career on EQ, and this guy was it's an unbelievable story, but basically up until he was almost 40 years old, he was basically hanging out in bars and drinking and just really not doing very much. And he started, somehow he got involved in studying EQ, and he actually became one of the world's leading experts on this field. He ended up with a gigantic company that he formed and made millions and millions of dollars and worked with every major pharmaceutical company in the world. Over 400 different companies he worked with during his career, all on emotional intelligence. Is really amazing. So I've had a lot of exposure to this subject, and hasn't helped me. I'm still failing in many ways, but I do have a high awareness of this arena. And this particular guy, it's just remarkable what he did once he figured this out, and he figured out how to help companies, particularly senior management, learn the benefits of this sort of thing. And he actually tried to make it into a university curriculum. We both served on the board of a university, and unfortunately, for a bunch of reasons unrelated to us, it wasn't accepted by the faculty as something that was useful. But I do think it would help a lot of people, and young people are no different than us, right? If they've never been exposed to it, or they don't have this perspective, it becomes very difficult. And so anyway, I'll try to look through some of the books that he's recommended me over the years, and if I see anything that might be helpful, I'll post it on our Facebook page or whatever. But that's it for today. So I appreciate everybody coming, and we'll see you tomorrow for the second